Differentiating Instruction by Chris Bradley. First off, what is differentiated instruction? Is it just giving something different to give a bunch of different choices? Or is there a reason we give differentiated instruction? There is a reason, and there is a method to it. It is tailoring lesson plans to meet the student's needs, because you're going to have a student who is a tactile learner, you are going to have a student who is a visual learner, you are going to have a student who is an auditory learner, you're going to have a student who learns it a little faster than one, a little slower than one. You're going to have ones that need multiple ways of learning, like they might need to listen to it while they read it to really grasp those concepts that you are trying to show them and help them understand. At the beginning of the year, unless there's an IEP or a parent has told you, hey, my son or daughter, they have this, this is how they learn, this is how they've done it, you're not going to know that. So it's going to be a learning time for you two to learn what the students need through observation, through talking with them, through talking with the counselors in your school, talking with, speech language pathologists, just really everyone in the school being involved in tailoring plans to meet the students' needs, because there are 3 tiers. There's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And depending on the students' needs, depends on what tier they need to be in and how much assistance they need or how much changing to the format that it needs. So the studies show that basing a basic plan and then modifying it for the students' needs is going to help them understand, and which means a different way of teaching for you. Next, we have how teachers differentiate instruction. Like I said, there's different types of learners, so you're going to have a lot of different ways to differentiate. But there are 4 parts to it: the content, the process, the products, and learning. With contents, you are figuring out what the student needs to know and where they're at. A very advanced student, they might get a little bit more information, a little more detail, because they can handle that. A student who might be tier 2 or tier 3, they might need a little less detail and more of the broad picture, and they might also need someone working with them one-on-one, or they might need a video that they can play again and again if necessary to really understand what they're looking at, and so that they understand it. And then you're going to have your process. You're going to have activities that allow them to be engaged and make sense of what they're doing. So you might have a student who prefers to write, so you're going to give them the option to do research and writing if that's what works for them. You're going to have a student who they really like technology and they really like conveying what they've learned through Prezis, PowerPoints, Word documents, things like that, and making sure that they have access to those things and understanding of how to use those things so that they can show that, yes, they did learn it. They just didn't do it in a writing way like this one student did. They did it in a Prezi. You might have another one who they want to do like a verbal explanation of what they've learned or things like that. So you're going to allow those processes, and you're going to make sure that there are opportunities in your lesson plans where that's there. Products. Again, that goes back to having something that they can use. One of the products that I got to experience this week that I thought was wonderful was a thing called Kahoot. I work in a museum, and we do have some volunteers that work at the middle schools, and one of them was getting ready for a test. And although she understood what the teacher had told them in class and the things they'd read, it didn't engage her that well. And so she was worried about her test. Well, her teacher had uploaded the content into a Jeopardy type game on Kahoot. And so she was answering the questions and getting the points. And it was very bright, very colorful, very fun, very fast paced. And so I saw that she was able to take what the teacher taught her in class and get to look at it a second time through Kahoot. So that when the test comes up, she will be able to do very, very well at it. And just providing products like that and access to different learning methods is something that we have to make sure we're having. The learning environment. This really kind of, to me, focused on the actual classroom, not so much the outside of the class. Some students need quiet zones, and you're going to have a quiet zone, or you're going to have like a small separate room even. Depends on how your school was built. And it's also having materials that are representing all of your students. You have your background. You have your knowledge that was part of what you learned in your life. You're going to have students coming from all parts of the country, all parts of the world. And they are going to bring in a unique set of ideas that they have experienced in their lifetime through family involvement, through church involvement, through, well, maybe not even church, maybe synagogue, maybe they're Jewish, maybe they go to the mosque, maybe they, there's those things are going to be part of it. Perhaps they were at 4-H, or perhaps they weren't, but they were totally curious about it. They're going to have all of these things, and if you only base your lessons off of what your representation is in your part of the world, they are going to disconnect from that so quickly because they don't have anything to connect it to. One's going to celebrate Christmas, which is important to them. Another one's going to celebrate, I just blanked. They're going to celebrate Boxing Day. I have no clue about Boxing Day, but I do need to represent it because I have that student in my classroom. And they're going to be able to connect. Oh, okay, they have meals, they share presents, they celebrate, they do things, all of this with their family because that is part of what their Christmas is. Well, that's kind of like what we do with our day over here in their cultures. And so it helps them connect. And setting expected routines. That is like the biggest thing that you can do that's going to help students. If every day they're coming into your classroom and they have no clue what they're supposed to be doing, there's no learning going to be done because you're going to spend so much time just trying to get them to figure out that they need to be sitting down at this time, or they need to be doing this at this time, or it's time to line up for recess, not run around in a big circle, or it's time to, well, circle outside at recess. Or that, when they get to the music classroom, the music teacher is going to have set the routine of, this is where you all sit down. Once we're all seated and everybody's greeted, then we go and we get our musical instrument or we get our song sheets and we do that. And so they know that these are the steps that are going to be in their classrooms. And you're going to do the same things in your classrooms. You're going to have them come in and let's say in the morning time in your classroom, it's go hang up your coats, get your folders out of your book bags, go sit at your desk. And for the first 10 minutes while everyone's kind of getting in and getting seated, because everyone arrives at different times within this window of this is the okay time to get here, it's a time for them to sit down and get calm. And so when that ends, you're like, okay, now the next thing they do is they learn their word of the day or whatever your choice is. And they do this every single day, every single thing the way. You do have specials. But they always happen on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Your students know they have PE on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, always after small group lesson. And so you always keep it the same. If there is going to be a time when there's going to be something different, let them know ahead of time. So you're like, okay, normally we do this before PE, but because we have this holiday or special thing going on, we're going to be doing this a little bit different tomorrow. And so it's going to take a little more time, but they're going to know. So they're going to know that they have to expect change. Or if they're going on a field trip, you've let the parents know, and hopefully the parents have talked with them, and then you've let the kids know, and they know, okay, there's going to be something different today. We're going to do some of the things the same, but then there's going to be a change, and they're ready for that. And what does differentiated instruction look like in a classroom? It is not just handing out one thing and then, oh, okay, you don't read as well, you just don't have to read as much, something like that. It is determining through observation what your students need based on their learning style, and it is evolving. So at the beginning of the year, you may be doing one thing with them. And by the middle of the year, that thing is no longer working, or it needs to be changed. It's working, but there's a caveat that's like something needs to change. So then you're going to rewrite and you're going to redo and you're going to constantly modify. And you're going to get feedback from students on this. You're going to get feedback from parents. You're going to work with your school system. So we're talking your specials teachers, your counselors, your principals, your librarian, and they're going to let you know what they see with this student when they are with them. And what they see has worked in their classes, and you're going to modify, and you guys are all going to work together so you can constantly keep up with what the child is needing, because it is evolving and it is always based on their needs. And there will be assessments done that lets you know what they need and whether they are learning in a manner that connects them to the ideas and that they are able to understand them. And there are some examples of non-differentiated instruction and why they are a problem. These are just a few of them that I felt were really important, and they do not work. And it is because they're taught that with the assumption that every student is a carbon copy and that everybody can learn the same, that everybody can listen to that lecture from that teacher, from that professor, and they're going to get it. And then when you hand them the test and they fail the test, the belief is that it's the student's fault. And in some cases that is the truth, but in many cases it's not. It's because it was presented, but it was not in a manner that they could relate to, that they could understand, and that allowed them to present it in a method that they understand it. Again, we go back to some students that need to write the paper. We go back to students that can look at it, memorize it, give it right back to you on the test, and they're perfectly fine. You have other ones that if there was not something that they could touch, something that they could compare, that they don't connect those ideas. Or when they were taught, it was just such a loud, distracting thing, and they needed some quiet to, take it and really look at it, really dissect what they were learning so that they could grasp the concept. And so whenever you just go, we're doing it this way, this is my way, this is the right way, you deal with it. And if you don't do well, you stink. It's your fault. We can't teach like that. We should not teach like that. And if we are teaching like that, we are the problem and we need to change. I know that I've been a little loud with this. I'm just really passionate about these things because understanding that every student learns differently is extremely important, and it's something that we need to continually understand, continually study, and continually strive for in our classroom, is to offer the different ways that children can learn that help them, and never making them feel like it's not okay to ask for help or not okay to say, you know what, I don't understand it when you do it this way. Is there something else I can do?